Welcome to the SuperHero Sanctum, an offshoot of the PCVG in which Tetris and Waha try to pitch each other superheroes.
Each episode will be at least 10 minutes long, but each superpower may last several episodes, so stay tuned and enjoy the SuperHero Sanctum. Welcome back to the SuperHero Sanctum. We are talking about Paradox Man, after having talked about the family next week. The family, if you had forgotten, is a family of changeling, mafia, crime family, syndicate, shadow government, overworld organization type peoples. And Paradox Man is the only, or is one of the best people I can think to fight such an evil, shadowy organization full of intrigue and espionage. Because the Paradox Man is a man who is able to travel back in time once. But he only does so to be able to go back to himself, tell himself some piece of advice or a plan, or having scouted out information farther into the future, to be able to unexist and help himself. So constantly this detective, as I envision this guy as a detective, is able to get information from the best source, the future, in which himself comes back in time, tells him something that changes history, which enables himself to no longer exist, allowing himself to still have the opportunity to go back.
It's pretty hilarious. I mean, I like this guy. I like time travel bullshittery.
Yeah, and he's manipulating the one chance he's got. He's figured out he can go back in time, and he managed not to fuck it up the first time that he managed to go back in time. He even knows he can only go back in time once. Somehow. Like it's
And
some
we'll
power
figure
that is
out,
like
yeah,
his
we'll
father.
figure out how he's managed to do that.
Yeah,
'Cause,
later.
Yeah, that would be the tricky part. It's
That's
like,
the
oh
that's
man,
a
I can
story.
just fucking do this whenever I want.
Yeah, exactly. No, you can only do it once. But that's the whole point, is he knows he can only do it once, and the only way to be able to take full advantage of that is to cheat. And the way to cheat is to make sure that when you go back in time, you make it so you never went back in time.
Which, like, he does have to pretty much find a cause he's willing to die for. Like, literally die for. By going back in time, telling himself to change the future.
And then ceasing to exist, exactly. And
Yeah.
what I like about this is it, as much as I don't want to steal or put in on this, it's kind of like the world of tomorrow, where he keeps going back in time, and slowly he may accumulate a plan, and it will change and evolve into, like, he goes back in time with this torn up, rewritten on 3 times piece of paper, explaining to this guy he needs a duck here, take a left here, and blah blah blah. And then that guy just pops out of existence. Then the guy dies. He could, and this guy can even die. That's the cool part. If he was shot in the head, he would not be able to use his power, because he'd be dead. He'd just be fucking dead. But he could go back in time if he was dying, so he would just go back in time and be like, oh god, what am I doing back in time bleeding to death? Don't go to Johnny's house. And then he dies. And he goes, well, I guess I'm not going there. And then his dead body disappears.
I can imagine his superhero sort of, fucking costume, including a helmet. Like some sort of, hopefully bulletproof helmet.
Oh, even like to go as far as like a bomb squad thing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Something that, like, I can get shot literally anywhere else in the body but here.
Well, the biggest thing would be he wouldn't tell people he does this. It would be like his biggest secret ever. He would have, this would be one of those like Death Note situations where we'd have to figure out what this guy does. He goes into a lead chamber every day in which his future self can appear, and he stays there for an hour a day. So if his future self has to appear to him that day to tell him something that's going to happen, he can't.
I have to say, in desperate measures, he always carries on him a second cell phone that he uses when he pops back in time to call his main cell phone and say, oh god, don't do this shit.
Oh yeah,
and
no,
then
like he
click.
leaves it in that room or whatever. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
he has it like on. Yeah,
No,
no,
he would
he would
leave it
have
in
this.
wherever the guy travels back to in time. This would be another thing, is where the guy ends up when he goes back in time. Is it the same place, so he only has X amount of time, or does he go to a specific?
I guess it's a matter of the main thing that I think is always the trouble with time travel is, all right, say right now where I'm sitting, I time travel back 6 months exactly. Am am I in space? Am I exactly where I'm sitting 6 months in complete time and space in the universe and everything? Because if so, the Earth is like several hundreds of thousands of probably a lot of miles away. Like a lot of miles away.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. It would be one of the things that we haven't talked about, but and how far back in time could he go?
Oh, you were telling me about his origin story. Every time he, fucking goes back, it could be wherever he initially got the power, which is
No,
pretty
that's a
much
different.
exactly where he. Oh.
That's a different character. Um,
Shh, never mind. I didn't say shit.
that that's a different character. Don't worry about that. Though I do like that. What I like even better is just one day a very old man comes back in time and is like, "Listen to me, the bomb's going to go off in '82," and blah blah blah. And he goes, "Okay, well, I'll make sure that this guy doesn't live." And he goes, "Good," and then disappears. You know, like he could have major world-changing effects like that. But it's just, you know, however long he lives without the power and whenever it's needed. It's a kind of it's a broken power, definitely. But it would be all about him keeping it secret that he has it. Like
Yeah, which is why his actual name probably wouldn't be Paradox Man.
no, that's
I
why he's a
mean,
detective. He's a
mm,
detective that just, he's a detective that's good at his job because most of the cases he takes are ones that are already solved in the future. Like he goes, "Oh, there was a bank robbery today," and then he goes back in time and goes, "Hey, there's going to be a bank robbery at 5 o'clock on Wednesday," and then he goes to the bank robbery and watches it like get pulled, and then he goes back in time again and goes, "Hey, there's a bank robbery at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, and this is the exit the people take, and this is the plan that you need to use to catch these people." And then that person catches the people, and then there's no trace that anyone went back in time in the first place. So really, it would be he would have to make sure nobody sees him do this interaction, and then he just looks like this unstoppable genius.
hmm. So, damn. Yeah, that's the main thing. So we do really need to figure out if it's a set place or if he comes back exactly where he was in the future.
I would
Uh,
say it would be not like a set place in space and time, but like what he could do is since he goes like I had proposed him going into that room every day, he would just go back in time in his own timeline and be right there across the table in that room.
so,
Or like he
so
would
like
be
it.
yeah, like since he can go back in time, he would just go back in his own timeline till that point, and then he would just kind of separate off from himself, like in a weird kind of effect, and it would be the older one or whatever. So it would be kind of like uh, the guy would be sitting there at the table, and then his other self would either walk off or fall off of himself or whatever to make this happen, and just be like, oh, blah blah blah. So it's like he's the portal for this to happen for himself too.
Him being in that, yeah. Oh, I like that. Him being wherever this focal point is the point in which in the future, they, him in the future accesses to actually go back to. He accesses the nearest in the past point in which he's in that room, and then he goes back to that room.
Yep, and then he comes out and tells himself in that room whatever it is that himself needs to.
God, especially that. I like the him being born there. That's the point.
Yeah, that
Like,
would.
so
There's
he,
some bullshit paradox that we could do like there, where it's like he was born there from himself from having this experiment happen in the future, which sends all this knowledge to him back in time that he can travel back in time once to that focal point. And once
Uh, okay. We're reaching some crazy bullshit where, like, a power is developed before we develop a backstory. This has become pretty crazy compared to how much how he would even get it. In which it is a time traveling power. So him having it could be the reason he has it.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly.
No, it's a pretty fun guy, and like I said, he should be a detective or even a police officer. But I don't consider a police officer as a freelance of a job. Like, there's too many rules and restrictions. If he's a detective, then
Exactly. If, like, a regular police officer went into his, chief of police's office and said, like, hey, there's
there's
gonna be
gonna
a
be a
bank
bank
robbery
robbery on
today.
this day. Yeah. And if we just set up our squad cars at this point, we can stop it. And like the police chief just looks at him like, "You're an idiot." He could have been a
You're an
cop. That's the
idiot.
beauty. That's the beauty.
Yeah. Or, hold on. He'll be all like, you're an idiot. And then when it happens, the chief of police will be like,
You
okay,
were in on it.
you were in on it. Yeah, exactly. Like, not know why. It's like, were you doing work on your own, or were you like? It would lead to too many questions. But if he was a guy on the side doing enough crazy shit on his own, he would work with the police. He would be that detective. Actually, do you have an alias for him?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
I have just barely figured out. Like I think I thought of this guy like 2 nights ago, to be honest, and I've just been kind of stewing him up, and he just sounds like the perfect hero compared to the family. He's somebody that can outsmart them because he can outlive them in a shorter time period.
No, let's call him like Detective Richards.
Detective Richards. Okay. We could
Actually,
do.
wait, who is the guy in Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I don't. Oh, you mean the doc? Who was Doc?
No, the detective's name.
Oh, Eddie Val.
Eddie?
Oh no, Eddie was his.
That's right. No, 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 I think
Valentine was
Eddie
the last.
was him.
Oh, okay. Then somebody else was his brother.
Please, Eddie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, I'm right, but you're right that I'm right.
Let's do that. No, at least Valentine last name. But either way, it's
I
a
do like Valentine just because it's like it kind of has that noir feel to it. Detective Valentine.
Oh yeah, and he's just fucking works with them. Uh, he's that guy that occasionally the chief of police over the years has developed an extreme friendship with because he's come up and said like, hey, you know what, this crazy shit's gonna happen. And then the crazy shit happened, and then the chief of police is like, okay, you're probably not reasonably in on this. And since I'm not your direct supervisor, I really can't ask why or how you know. But it just any the sort of relationship that Batman has with
Commissioner.
exactly.
Where it's strained, and at the very end, it's just he lets him get away with whatever. But yeah, it's the strain of duty versus what you know is right.
Exactly. So he has this liaison with the law that knows what's going on in Sanctum City, and or who is in charge of the general police force, in which we man we should at least go into the general police force because in a world with supers, the general police force has to at least be equipped to deal with super sort of situations.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Oh
Well, I think
man,
we've hit the point where we need to call it good on
I
Paradox
know.
Man.
But I was in the moment of actually creating a superhero that is a police officer. His name is RoboCop.
Hope.
HoboCop.
I like Hobo Cop. Well, we can talk about Hobo Cop right now, and this will be the three-part: the family, Paradox Man, and his best friend Hobo Cop, which is his because Paradox Man, I mean Detective Valentine used to be a policeman, obviously. It's where he gets all of his training from. So we can have an ex-partner still on the force that's called Hobo Cop, and we can get into the story of Hobo Cop for the next 10 minutes.
Okay. It's not going to be Hobo Cop, but we do need to tie heroes into other heroes.
Okay, so we're going to call this a pin on this right now, folks. Hope you guys have been enjoying the Superhero Sanctum. This is Tetris and Waha coming to you semi-annually and live-ually. Because I've got a pulse. You got a pulse over there, right?
I don't know. Like, I thought I died a bit ago, but, people would say otherwise.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys next week.
Later.
Later.